Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is Mr. Eaton, and today we are going to take a look at Topic 5, Block 3 of adding and subtracting integers in Agile Mind. Now, as you can see from the screen, we're going to skip the first bunch of questions because they're not really going to help us at this point. We're just going to get right into the start of things using a number line. Now, a number line, of course, you can see we have right here. And you can see that we have negative integers to the left of 0 on the number line, and we have positive integers to the right of 0 on the number line, and that's what we're going to be dealing with. So I'm going to show you how to add and subtract integers on a number line using a number line. So let's get started right away, and I'm going to show you a couple of different methods to do this. So the first question we have here is, we're going to add 6 plus 4. Now, it's not like you don't know how to do this. You've added 6 plus 4 probably a bazillion times. But using a number line, you do it a little bit differently. So let me show you here. So because we're starting at the number 6, I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to move to my starting value, which is 6. So you have to forgive me the shaky line. Okay, so there's my 6. And then to that, I'll put my second step in red. To that 6, we are going to add 4. So from here, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, I missed it just a little bit there. And that's my plus 4. And that's why I end up at 10. And so that tells us, using the number line, that 6 plus 4 is indeed 10. Easy peasy, right? Okay, so we're going to do this again, but this time we're going to use negative numbers. Now, our sum here is negative 4 plus negative 2. So again, I always start at 0 and go to my starting value. So from 0, I'm going to go to negative 4, negative 4. And now I'm going to add negative 2. Now, when I add negative 2, that means I am actually going to move down my number line 2 spots to the left, putting me at negative 6. Adding negative 2 is just like subtracting 2. And so I end up at negative 6 on my number line. Negative 2. There we go. And that's why at the end, negative 4 plus negative 2 is indeed negative 6. All right. And we're going to try one more using the same method. Now we have negative 6 plus 6. So you should recognize at this point that negative 6 and 6 are, we have terms for those, negative 6 and 6. Just remember, they are, we like to call them additive inverses. Also, they another term would be opposites. We could also call them zero pairs because, well, when we add them together, we get 0. So when you have a number that is the exact same distance from 0 on the number line, but in opposite directions, they are called additive inverses, opposites, and zero pairs. All 3 different terms, and you need to know all of them. Okay, so with that being said, let's start this one. So I'm going to start at my 0 and go to negative 6. I'm going to jump down here to negative 6. And then I'm going to adding positive 6 to that. So now I'm going to add positive. So that means I'm going to move right on my number line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And where does that end me? Right at 0. So obviously, negative 6 plus 6 is going to be just that, 0. Okay. So let's move right along. And remember, you need to be writing these things down in your book or your packet, whatever it is that you've got that you're keeping track of this work in. So make sure that if you don't have your book or your packet open those up, because sitting watching me do it isn't going to help you learn it. We learn by doing. You've got to actually physically do this. All right, now I'm going to do these next few here just slightly differently. Instead of using loops and humps, we're going to use straight lines, or as straight as I can draw on my screen anyway. So starting off with 6 plus negative 8. So first things first, I'm going to start at 6. So that means I go from 0 up to 6. There's my 6. Then I'm going to add negative 8 in my second step. So I've gotten to 6. Now I'm going to add -8. That means I'm going to move to the left on my number line 8 spots. So there's 6, 7, 8. And -8. So 6 plus -8 puts me right there at -2. So 6 plus -8 equals -2, according to my number line. All right, so let's move on to letter E. We'll use the straight line, or as, like I said, as straight as I can make it. So we're going to add -7 plus 8. So I start at my 0. I'm going to move down to -7. -7. And my second step is I'm going to add 8. So by adding 8, I'm going to move up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Plus 8. And as you can see, that puts us at +1. So -7 plus 8 is a +1 when we use our number lines. Okay, so let's take a look at this next question, question F. And it asks us to write a generalization, which is just, write a general rule for adding integers. And it's going to answer these questions. What happens when you add a positive number? And then what happens when you add a negative number? Well, let's see. Let's take a look at when we add a positive. What happened when we added a positive in letter E? All right. You'll notice when we added a positive number, like adding 8, we move to the right on our number line. When you move to the right on your number line, what happens to your numbers? Do they get smaller or larger? Well, when you move to the right, your numbers get larger. So what happens when you add a positive? Let me type this in here. Get the right size font here so everybody can see it. Okay. Add a positive. The sum gets larger, right? Because we're moving to the right on the number line because we're adding a positive. And then what happens when we add a negative number? Well, if you add a positive, the sum gets larger because you're moving to the right on the number line, then wouldn't it stand to reason that you add a negative, it would be moving in the opposite direction, right? Sum is smaller or less. That makes sense because you'll notice in this one here, see, we added -8, and when we added -8 from 6, we're moving to the left on our number line, and that made the sum get smaller. Okay, so that's something that you definitely need to make sense of as we move in through this. Okay, adding a positive, sums get larger. Adding negatives, the sums get smaller. It's as simple as that. Okay, let's move on to number 5. Now, let's see. In number 5, you'll notice that we have the number lines, but no numbers. It doesn't tell us what is happening. We have to figure that out. So let's look here. Remember, we always start at 0, right? So let's find 0 on our number line. Here's 0. So obviously, this is the number. We're starting at 0 and moving to our first value. So that means we're moving this direction to our first value, which happens to be 5. So put that in blue here. 5. 5 is our first value. So we're going to label these integers on the diagram and then write the addition problem when we're done. Now, after we got to 5, what happened? Which direction are we going? Looks like we're moving to the left. So that means we are adding a negative. Whoops. Make sure that I'm doing these in the right colors for you. We're adding a negative. How much are we adding? Well, let's count. From 5, we move down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We moved -9 spaces, and we ended at -4. So to write this out, we will say, well, okay, 5 plus -9, pardon the penmanship, equals -4. Okay, 5 plus -9 equals -4. Now you might be asking why I put parentheses around my -9, because I don't want it to look like it says 5 plus -9. That just wouldn't make sense. We're adding -9, and that's why the parentheses are around it. 5 plus -9 equals -4. Okay, well, let's take a look at this one that's in the bottom left, right here. Okay, scroll down just a bit. All right, so remember, we always start at 0 to find our first value. Here's 0, and there's our starting, so we're going to go this way. And so what's happening there? Well, where are we starting? It looks like we're starting at -9. Okay, then from -9, what is going on from here? We're going this way on our second step to here. So how much are we moving from -9? We're moving to the right, so that means we're adding a positive number. How much? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're adding 6. And we ended up at -3. So we can write this down as, all right, -9 plus 6 equals -3. Beautiful. All right. Well, now we can take a look at the bottom right-hand one over here. And remember, you can pause the video anytime and go back in case I'm going too fast, but you'll be okay. That's why you're in control of the video right now. So to start this one, again, remember, we start where 0 is to find our first value. Here's 0. What is our starting value? So if we've got our starting value from 0, then we know that from 0, we're going clear over here and starting at 9. So 9 goes there. And then from 9, what's happening? Well, we're going from 9, going back to the left, so that means it's going to be a negative. Going left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. -9. So our number sentence would be 9 plus -9 equals 0, because 0 is where we started and 0 is where we ended. Okay. Now number 6 says that we're going to model additional problems on the number line and record the problems below. We're not going to do that. So the good news is for you, we're just going to cross that one out and say, nah, not today. So then let's go look at number 7. Now this is what we did a problem just like this up here. 5 plus -9 equals -4. But let's take a look. How long is the line segment that represents the integer 5? How long is this line segment from here to here, right? How long is that? Well, obviously we can see that that's 5, right? From here to here is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. But how long is the line segment that represents the -9 from here to here? How long is that line segment? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the line segment that represents -9, it's 9 units long. The one that represents the 5 is 5 units long. The one that represents -9 is 9 units long. Why isn't it -9 units long, right? Why isn't it -9 units long? Have you ever heard of negative distance? Can you travel negative miles, negative feet? Now you can travel in a negative direction, but when you talk about the actual distance, length is always a positive number. You can dig a hole 8 feet deep. You're traveling in a negative direction, but how deep is the hole? 8 feet, not -8 feet. It's 8 feet. If I have to drive 10 miles to get to work, that's 10 miles one direction. Is my trip to come home, is it negative 10 miles? No, it's still 10 miles. I'm just going the opposite direction. So the thing you have to remember here is that distance is always a positive number. Distance is always positive. Always positive. Distance is always positive. What's that? Distance is always positive. Okay. So with that said, let's go to the next question. Now you might not know the answer to question number 9, but as part of our vocabulary, there's a special vocabulary term that we use to mean a number's distance from 0. No matter which direction it's going, whether you're going in the negative or the positive, it doesn't make any difference. There is a special term that we use to represent a number's distance from 0. And that term is called absolute value. Okay, absolute value is a number's distance from 0. So for example, how far is 7 from 0? So absolute value looks like this. This is what absolute value of 7. What is the absolute value of 7? How far is 7 from 0? Well, it's 7 units from 0. But then again, what about the absolute value of negative 7? How far is negative 7 from 0? How many units do you travel to get from 0 to negative 7? Well, you're still traveling 7 units. Absolute value, remember, it's a distance. Distance is always positive. So absolute value, always positive because it's distance. Okay. Well, you're going to love number 10 today because we're not going to do number 10. Congratulations. We're going to go right to number 11. Now, number 11 says, consider the point located at positive 6 on the number line. There's 6 on the number line. Now, we're going to locate 2 points that are 8 units from 6. A distance of 8 units from 6. So, if we start at 6, I can count, obviously, I can count up 8 units from 6 in the positive direction. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And look where I end up. 6 plus 8 equals 14. But can't I count 8 units the opposite direction, in the negative direction? It's still 8 units, but it's in the negative direction. So I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And when I do that, I end up at negative 2. But I'm not subtracting, I'm adding negative 8. See, adding negative 8. 6 plus negative 8 equals negative 2, because that's where I end up when I count to the negative 8. Okay? All right. Now, if you have any questions about any of this, you can feel free to email me or shoot me some kind of message saying, hey, I'm not so sure about this, but this is the last question on this page. So congratulations, we made it through another lesson. You'll find everything else that you need in the assignment on Teams. Have a great day. Don't forget to be awesome.